of our country, India traditional attire. We have from Uttarakhand, we have from Chhattisgarh, we have from Mizoram, we have from Assam, a few of the representatives out here. We would now request that there is as you can see, there's a plant out there, a potted plant. We would like to request our guests, our honorary guests, to kindly, in a traditional way, just like to show that how important it is, the environment, and to protect it. So, Divya? We are thanking the environment, this Mati, where we are. Coordinator of the Linguistic Empowerment Cell at Jawaharlal Nehru University, and it is my great pleasure to welcome you all to today's event as we annually celebrate the United Nations International Day of the World's Indigenous People on the 9th of August. This day is a reminder of the importance of preserving the cultural and natural heritage of indigenous communities and their indigenous knowledge. Today we will explore the vital role these communities play in environmental protection, and we will discuss the United Nations theme of this year, which is protecting the rights of indigenous peoples in voluntary isolation and initial contact. Did you know that there are an estimated 476 million indigenous people in the world? Yes, 476 million. Living across 90 countries. They make up less than 6% of the world's population, but they account for at least 15% of the poorest. They speak an overwhelming majority of the world's estimated 7,000 languages and represent 5,000 different cultures. Indigenous peoples are inheritors and practitioners of unique cultures and ways of relating to people and the environment. They have retained social, cultural, economic, and political characteristics that are distinct from those of the dominant societies in which they live. Despite their cultural differences, indigenous people from around the world share common problems related to the protection of their rights as distinct people. Indigenous people throughout history have been violated, but many countries have also supported their indigenous communities. We are lucky that our government has supported many such indigenous communities. Indigenous people today are arguably among the most disadvantaged and vulnerable groups of people around the world. The international community now recognizes that special measures are required to protect their rights and maintain their distinct cultures and way of life. In order to raise awareness of the needs of these population groups, every 9th August commemorates the International Day of the World's Indigenous People, chosen in recognition of the first meeting of the United Nations Working Group on Indigenous Populations held in Geneva in 1982. Though our university's Vice Chancellor has been extremely supportive to both me and my fellow coordinator, Dr. Ganga Sai Meena, she has regretted that she will be unable to join us today due to the selection committee meetings that are currently taking place. But we are thrilled to have the presence of our Rector 3, Professor Das. This entire event has been sponsored by the funds from a joint project between JNU and IIT Roorkee under DST National Mission on Interdisciplinary Cyber-Physical System, IIT Bhilai Innovation and Technology Foundation, and the project is titled Adaptation of Indigenous and Local Knowledge Systems and FinTech Solutions for Comprehensive Tribal Development in Chhattisgarh. We will request our first speaker of the day, Dr. Saket Badola, to kindly grace us with his talk. But before that, let me give a brief introduction about him. Ladies and gentlemen, it is our honor to introduce Dr. Saket Badola, a distinguished Indian Forest Service officer and a renowned expert in the field of forestry and conservation. He attained a university's honors bachelor's degree in veterinary sciences from G.B. Pant University of Agriculture and Technology, a postgraduate in animal genetics from Indian Veterinary Research Institute, Bareilly. Again, he got a university honor for that, I might add, and an advanced diploma in wildlife management from Wildlife Institute of India. His career has spanned over 2 decades, dedicating himself to the preservation and sustainable management of India's rich forests and wildlife resources. Throughout his illustrious career, Dr. Badola has held several key positions, such as Deputy Conservator of Forest of Upper Yamuna Forest Division in Uttarkashi, Deputy Field Director of Corbett Tiger Reserve in Uttarakhand, Deputy Conservator of Forest of Mussoorie Forest Division, Director of Binog Wildlife Sanctuary, Deputy Conservator of Forest, Dehradun. He was also the country head of Traffic India, which is the global wildlife trade monitoring network. And he was the director of Rajaji Tiger Reserve and conservator of forest for Gangotri National Park and Govind Wildlife Sanctuary and National Park, including his current position as field director of Corbett Tiger Reserve. His work focuses on forest ecology, wildlife conservation and community-led forest management. Dr. Badola's contributions have been recognized through numerous awards and accolades, such as the International Visitors Leadership Program Fellowship from the Government of the United States, the National Level Master Trainer in Forestry Sector by our government, the prestigious Hari Singh Fellowship from the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and the Governor's Commendation in 2023 for his outstanding work on wildlife conservation. Today, we are privileged to have Dr. Badola share his insights and experiences with us, and we look forward to his valuable perspectives on the rights and role of indigenous communities in environment protection. Please join us in welcoming Dr. Saket Badola.
Thank you, Dr. Sandesha. Whenever somebody reads the CV, it looks like कि आपको बहुत ज़्यादा टाइम हो गया ये सब करते हुए, बहुत लंबी लिस्ट बन जाती है. But I thank JNU first of all for giving me this opportunity to come on this day, interact with such a diverse group. It is so lovely to see every one of you in your traditional attires and all. And I would also add that let me thank Dr. Sandesha also, because if it was not her insistence, I probably would have just kind of taken some excuse. Because only yesterday we were celebrating 88 years of Corbett National Park. You all would know that Corbett National Park was the first national park in country in India and also in Asia. And since then it has maintained its the topmost position since then. We have highest number of tigers, highest density of tigers. Today we have 260 plus tigers, and tigers are doing extremely well. But I'm not talking about tigers for a change also. I'm talking on some other issues today. And on such a lovely, I would add a sunny and a kind of mix of drizzle and sun. It's difficult to start on a very on a slightly gloomy note. But then we need to understand the facts. Then only we'll be able to appreciate what indigenous communities are doing for conservation of biodiversity and also of forest and nature. You know, the country or the globe is today facing two kind of major crises. First is climate crisis, which is like on our face, and we can see that, we can feel that. But there is another crisis which is going on, which is known as biodiversity crisis. So we are also, this is also a crisis which we probably are not realizing, because if a species vanishes, and if it's not a charismatic species, we don't realize that some species has vanished until unless we realize that the whole ecosystem has been disturbed. Okay. And unfortunately, who is responsible for all of this? I think we all humans are responsible for both these crises, which are impacting us only. But somehow we are not realizing. We have not yet found a solution for a balance between ecology and economy, for example. Okay, so we are destroying ecology because we want to be more economically ahead of that. We have to support a large population kind of thing. That is an issue. Second thing is, which is more concerning, is that our consumption pattern is going from bad to worse. Okay, the kind of waste which we are generating, it's going to turn the entire planet, which we see so beautiful planet, into a waste bin. Ultimately, so much of plastic we are generating. There are already islands of plastic waste which are moving around in oceans. They've all come together and they have formed islands kind of thing. So we know that. Ultimately, what is responsible for that is the neglect which we have, which has crept in our systems for nature, for conservation, for wildlife, for forest. Okay, so that is a problem. But there is a ray of hope. Okay, we all know that the indigenous communities all across the globe, they are providing that ray of hope. I was aware that there are 300 million, but Dr. Sandesha just corrected that there are 476 million indigenous community people all across the globe. That is there. But the more interesting part is that the indigenous community, they own or they have 36% of forest area. The undisturbed, the wildest or the natural forest, 36% of forest area is on indigenous lands, indigenous communities' lands. Now that is remarkable, especially when we understand that approximately 10% of global warming, which is happening, the prime responsibility for that 10% of global warming is deforestation and degradation of forest resources. So now in this context, this is very important that almost 1/3 of the natural forest, they are on indigenous community land. So we should understand that. And that's not just that. More than 80% of biodiversity, of the global biodiversity, is represented in these areas. Again, so indigenous community, they are also contributing to saving of 80% of biodiversity, represented biodiversity. And that's why this all becomes very important. I don't know how many of you have read or heard about, there was a report which came approximately 2 years back, the IPBES report, okay, which was, they just assessed that what kind of biodiversity loss the global scenario is happening. And they realized that there are more than 1 million species, just mark my word, there are more than 1 million species, which is 10 lakh species, which are on the verge of extinction, okay, if proper corrective measures are not being taken. So that is how grave the situation is. But the same report also, again as I said, also gives us a ray of hope. The same report also mentions that this decline in biodiversity is far less in the land which are controlled by the indigenous communities. So that is how important the role of indigenous community is towards biodiversity conservation, towards nature conservation, towards forest conservation. Especially if we talk about India. Okay, again, correct me, there might be, the data might be slightly old. There are more than 70 million indigenous communities members here in India. Okay, there are more than 200 ethnic groups, more than 500 tribal communities which are there. But India is also unique because we just imagine that we have only 2.4% of global land mass. Okay, but we have approximately 16% of global population, human population. We also have approximately 14 to 15% of livestock population. So you can understand the pressure that only 2.4% of global land mass is undergoing on this. Okay, so that is a problem. But again, we also have 7 to 8% of biodiversity. Only 2.4% of global land mass, but 7 to 8% of biodiversity. We are one of the 17 mega biodiverse countries all across the world, and we are doing some amazing work, absolutely amazing work as far as wildlife conservation goes. So there is a problem, as I said, that only 2.4% of global land mass is with livestock, highest population of livestock, highest population of humans. We are also protecting biodiversity, so it's under a lot of pressure. But then solutions also, India also offers a lot of solutions. Many of them come from these areas again. We have several festivals which we know, which the indigenous communities celebrate, which are dedicated to forest conservation, which are dedicated to, say, species like animals and even species like fishes and birds also. So they are also provide us a lot of solutions also. There are several steps which were taken by Government of India. You all know about the Forest Rights Act, okay, which identified, or which in words said that the historical injustice which was done with the tribals and the forest dwelling communities, that needs to be corrected. We have that act in place. It has a mixed kind of reaction or mixed kind of solution, but again, it is a step which Government of India has taken. There is one more thing in Biodiversity Act, which all of you know, which is known as access and benefit sharing. Now that's a very important tool, that how the traditional knowledge, the tribal traditional knowledge, can be used for larger good but the benefits of that knowledge can also flow in back to the communities which have that traditionally, which hold that traditional knowledge with them. I'm sure all of you must have read the case of Kani tribe, which is in Kerala. If you have not, then you should go and study. It's a classic study that how there was a tribe, Kani tribe, which used to use a kind of plant for some medicines and purposes. Then a government institute worked with them. They produced a kind of medicine which is known as Jeevani. They produced that medicine, and the profits which were generated from that medicine, that is flowing back to the communities again. So it's a classic example of how the benefit sharing work done. Nagayo protocol, which brought this access and benefit sharing into CBD, that came much later. We were the leaders in that. So these things can be done. Now, next step is, I think I need to keep an eye on time also, because government officers like me, when they get hold of mic, they don't leave it that easily. Okay, so I think what we need to do, first of all, is see what we are trying, or what you will see all along, that for every problem, we try to find a techno fix of that problem. So I think we need to correct that obsession with the techno fixation approach of all the problems. I think as far as biodiversity conservation goes, as far as nature conservation goes, we have a working solution in the form of traditional knowledge which we have. We need to just collate that knowledge. We need to work that into a actionable kind of research, actionable kind of activities which can be done. And I think here, even Director Saab is here. I think JNU can play a very important role in collating of all this information and turning it into some kind of actionable research and work, which can then be scaled up with officers like me who are working in field. So that can be done at the field level. So I think that is something which needs to be done. We need to document, as I said, collate information and document all this information, what is there. And towards the end, I would just add that, see, it is a time that we protect the rights of indigenous communities. We celebrate the role which they are playing in biodiversity conservation. We should also respect the unique and the diverse cultural aspect of all this. We need to acknowledge the role which they have already played in conservation of biodiversity, and also the active role which they are playing in how to protect that biodiversity. And we need to strengthen, but that comes with the government for people like me. We need to strengthen this by use of policies, good rules, good laws. That needs to be done. So that is one. Again, speaking on especially on linguistic linguistic diversity, Dr. Sandesh has just left, but there were some facts which I wanted to narrate, that across the globe, out of the 7 linguistic diverse regions, 9 are also the same regions which are also known for their biodiversity. And out of the 9 topmost countries which are there of biodiversity, they also are featured into the 25 countries which are known for linguistic diversity also. So that's how well connected the diversity and everything is. We need to preserve that diversity. As I said, we need to protect that role which they are playing, and we need to promote what indigenous communities are doing. That knowledge should be used for the wider good of globe. That needs to be done. Thank you very much.
I'll request Professor Narendra to kindly please come on the stage. We would like to present a memento, something to remember us, to our Lecture 3.
जोहार साथियों, जो लोग कविता में दिलचस्पी रखते हैं, आदिवासियों में दिलचस्पी रखते हैं, उनके लिए निर्मला पुतुल कोई अनजान चेहरा नहीं है। निर्मला पुतुल को आप सभी जानते हैं कि हिंदी की और संताली की बहुत वरिष्ठ और मशहूर कवयित्री हैं। और जब मैं उनकी कविताएं युद्धरत आम आदमी में या हंस में पढ़ा करता था, तो मैं सोचता था कि कहाँ रहती हैं। तो हमेशा छपा करता था दुधानी कुरवा। दुधानी कुरवा उनके गांव का नाम है, और यह हमारे लिए सुखद संयोग है कि वो अभी दुधानी कुरवा की मुखिया भी हैं। उनके 3 कविता संग्रह हैं जो तीनों ही बहुत मशहूर है। नगाड़े की तरह बजते शब्द, आपने जरूर ये कविता भी पढ़ी होगी या कम से कम इस कविता संग्रह के बारे में सुना होगा। बेघर सपने और अपने घर की तलाश में, ये तीनों कविता संग्रह इतने मशहूर हुए मेरे ख्याल से हिंदी में सबसे पहले आदिवासियों की आवाज़, और आदिवासियों की आवाज़ पूरी विविधता के साथ में, क्योंकि आदिवासियों के बारे में एक स्टीरियोटाइप बाहर के समाज में है। स्वयं आदिवासियों ने भी निर्मित करने की कोशिश की है। निर्मला जी की कविताएं उसको तोड़ती हैं, और उनकी कविताएं इतनी मशहूर हुई, इतनी पसंद की गई कि मुझे लगता है कि कम से कम 10-12 भारतीय भाषाओं में और इससे ज़्यादा विदेशी भाषाओं में उनका अनुवाद हुआ है। दुनिया के बहुत सारे विश्वविद्यालयों में पढ़ाई जाती हैं। मैं पूरे सम्मान के साथ निर्मला जी को बुलाना चाहता हूँ। उनकी कविता मुझे एक याद आ रही है कि अक्सर विवाह को लेकर हमारे बहुत सारे सपने होते हैं। हम सोचते हैं कि तो उतनी दूर मत ब्याहना बाबा, जहाँ से वो शुरू करती हैं, बाबा मुझे उतनी दूर मत ब्याहना जहाँ मुझे मिलने जाने खातिर घर की बकरियां बेचनी पड़ जाए। मत ब्याहना उस देश में जहाँ आदमी से ज्यादा ईश्वर बसते हो। यहाँ से शुरू करके और आखिर में किसके साथ ब्याहना? चुनना वर ऐसा जो बजाता हो बांसुरी सुरीली और ढोल मादर बजाने में हो पारंगत। बसंत के दिनों में ला सके जो रोज मेरे जूड़े खातिर पलाश के फूल, जिससे खाया नहीं जाए मेरे भूखे रहने पर उसी से ब्याहना मुझे। आइए निर्मला जी, आपका स्वागत है। बहुत दिनों बाद हम आपको जेएनयू में बुला पाए हैं और आपको सुनने के लिए सब उत्सुक हैं। आपका स्वागत।
बस पर उपस्थित कन्वेंशन हॉल में मंचा से हमारे आदरणीय गुरुवर जी, आप सभी अध्यापक, प्राध्यापक, उपस्थित छात्र छात्राएं, आप सबों को निर्मला पुतुल की ओर से विश्व आदिवासी दिवस के अवसर पर ढेर सारी शुभकामनाएं, बधाई, हार्दिक आभार। बहुत खुशी की बात है कि आज हम काफी सालों बाद जेएनयू में कदम रखे हैं और ये बहुत ही सार्थक रहा, क्योंकि मैं जिनको देखती थी किताबों में, जिनका नाम सुना करती थी, उनको आज सामने से भी देख रही हूँ। ये हमारे लिए बहुत ही उपलब्धि की बात है। और हम जिस आदिवासी दिवस को मना रहे हैं, मेरे ख्याल से लगता है 42 वर्षों से हम मनाते आ रहे हैं, तो ये बड़ी बात है। लेकिन आज हम आदिवासी दिवस को मनाते हैं, उसकी क्या प्रासंगिकता रही है अभी तक, और हम आज आदिवासी कहाँ खड़े हैं, हमारी राजनीतिक आर्थिक स्थिति किस तरह से है, क्या हमारी आदिवासियों की स्थिति बदल पाई है? आज हम आदिवासियों को देखते हैं जंगल पहाड़ों में रहते हैं। वो पहले से ही जंगल पहाड़ों नदी नाले के इर्द गिर्द रहा करते थे, क्योंकि वो प्रकृति की गोद में पल रहा होता है, उनका प्रेम उससे है। तो आज हम देखते हैं ग्लोबलाइजेशन के इस दौर में आदिवासियों की स्थिति कहाँ से कहाँ पहुंच गई है। अब देखिएगा कि हमारी घटती आबादी, आदिवासियों की जो घटती आबादी हम देख रहे हैं, उसमें वो घटती आबादी में किस तरह से हमें खंडित किया जा रहा है, घट रही हमारी संख्या, वो किस तरह से घटाई जा रही है। हम देखते हैं कि पहले पूर्व की अनुमान दृष्टिकोण से हम देखते हैं कि कम से कम 10 करोड़ की आबादी रही होगी हमारे देश में, लेकिन अब उस 10 करोड़ से कितने घटते हुए यहाँ तक पहुंचे हैं, इस पर मनन चिंतन करने की जरूरत है। आज आदिवासी विभिन्न तरह से घट रहे हैं। एक तो राजनीतिक के तहत ही उसे घटाया जा रहा है। मुर्मू टाइटल को देवी में बदल करके उनकी जनसंख्या को भी बदलाया जा रहा है। तो ये बहुत ही दुखद स्थिति है। आज इस मंच से ये कहना चाह रहे हैं कि आज आदिवासियों पर चौतरफे हमले हो रहे हैं और उसके शिकार भी हम हो रहे हैं। आज आदिवासी मुख्य धारा में आना चाहते हैं। गंगा साहब बीना जी का कहना था कि वो कट रहे हैं और वो शायद अपने वजह से नहीं आ रहे हैं, लेकिन कहीं कहीं लगता है गंगा जी हमें कि सोचना चाहिए इस पर कि वो क्यों मुख्य धारा में नहीं आना चाहते। उन्हें डर है कहीं हम मुख्य धारा में जाएंगे तो कहीं हम विलुप्त ना हो जाए, क्योंकि हम पहले से ही विलुप्त होते आ रहे हैं और हम जो भोले वाले आदिवासी हैं, हमें वहाँ पर पता नहीं किस तरह से साजिश करके हमें फिर वहां से खदेड़ दिया जाएगा या फिर हमें दबा दिया जाएगा। आप देखिएगा कि हमारी आवाज किस तरह से पहुंचाई जा रही है यहाँ तक, दिल्ली तक आते आते मुझे खुद पता है अपने बारे में भी। मैं किस तरह के साजिश की शिकार हुई हूँ, यहाँ तक पहुंची हूँ। कविताओं के माध्यम से मुझे जाना जा रहा है, लेकिन इसके पहले मैं खुद प्रताड़ित हुई हूँ। आदिवासी होने की सजा हमें हर जगह दी गई है और आज भी मैं भुगत रही हूँ, लेकिन मुझे डर नहीं है कि आज आदिवासी का अपना इतिहास है। क्योंकि उन्होंने बहुत ही संघर्ष किया है, शायद ये संघर्ष का फल है। कोई दिक्कत नहीं, आदिवासियों की जनसंख्या यदि घट भी रही है तो हमारे बाकी आदिवासी, देश के आदिवासी जो विभिन्न क्षेत्रों में अपने अपने जगह पर बटे हुए हैं, वो अपने स्तर से संघर्षरत है और संघर्ष करेंगे। आने वाले दिनों में भी हम यहाँ से ऐलान करते हैं कि हमारा आदिवासी दिवस की सार्थकता होगी और हमारा आदिवासी समाज के जो जनसंख्या है, हमारे आदिवासी समाज की जनसंख्या वो भी आगे बढ़ेगी और अपने शिक्षा की बदौलत वो मुकाम हासिल करेगी और वो एक दिन स्वतः मुख्य धारा में शामिल होगी। क्योंकि यह उद्घाटन सत्र है, मुझे ज्यादा नहीं बोलना है। बाकी समय में आपसे फिर मैं रूबरू होंगी इन्हीं चंद शब्दों के साथ कि आज ये दीवार हिलने लगी है, लेकिन ये सिर्फ दीवार नहीं हिलनी चाहिए थी, बल्कि इनकी बुनियाद हिलनी चाहिए थी हमारे ये। थैंक यू, धन्यवाद, आप सबों का आभार। कविता है महामुनि। तुम्हारे हाथों बने पत्तल पर भरते हैं पेट हजारों, पर हजारों पत्तल भर नहीं पाते तुम्हारा पेट। यह कैसी विडंबना है कि जमीन पर बैठ बुनती हो चटाइयां और तुम्हारे करियाए देह से टपकता है टप टप पसीना। जिन घरों के लिए बनाती हो झाड़ू, उन्हीं से आते हैं कचरे तुम्हारी बस्तियों में। इस उबड़ खाबड़ धरती पर रहते कितनी सीधी हो महामुनि, तुम कितनी भोली हो कि जहाँ तक जाती है तुम्हारी नजर, तुम अपने दुनिया को वहीं तक समझती हो। इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ मैं समाप्त करती हूँ। धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद मैम, क्या बोलूँ, आपके शब्द तो बहुत अच्छे थे। और मुझे वो जो 2 लाइन गंगा सर ने सुनाई वो भी बहुत अच्छी लगी, क्योंकि जो मेरी मम्मी खुद हिमालय में बड़ी होकर मेरे पापा के साथ शादी करके सीधा दुबई पहुंची, तो मैं अपने मम्मी पापा को याद कर रही थी कैसे मेरी मम्मी इतनी दूर चली गई शादी के बाद। आज की डेट में हम बहुत लकी हैं कि कम्युनिकेशन की वजह से हम काफ़ी नज़दीक हो सकते हैं। धन्यवाद। Continuing on, I would like to now invite our chair for today's event, Professor Devendra Nath Das, our Rector 2 of our university, to share his remarks. Professor Das has been a prominent advocate for academic and cultural inclusivity at JNU, and his insights will provide a valuable perspective on today's discussions. I would also like to add that Professor Das has always been supportive. कहीं ना कहीं से हमारे लिए टाइम निकाल लेते हैं। लास्ट टाइम भी जब इंटरनेशनल वीक ऑफ द साइन लैंग्वेज मनाया गया था, तो रेक्टर सर को याद होगा कि वो आए थे और उनके वजह से, उनके सपोर्ट से जो गेस्ट्स आए थे, जो IAS ऑफिसर आए थे, उन्होंने ये डिक्लेयर किया कि हम JNU के साथ कुछ काम करेंगे। और जो काम हुआ है, रेक्टर सर को भी आई थिंक पता चल गया होगा, an agreement has been basically an agreement is going to be signed wherein JNU is going to play a prominent role in helping the deaf students and providing a kind of course in English language for them. So we thank sir for his support, and over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saket Badola and distinguished poet Srimati Nirmala Putul. And really, we always get involved in the academic discussions. And when we enter into academic discussions, then the logic, rationality, the way it prevails, and that many a times it disturbs us, because it also
gives us some passage towards conflict. But in the domain of literature, when she was reciting her own written poems, it always brings the people into a totally different areas when the objectivity of the life is defined totally differently. So every time we want that it should be objective oriented, but subjectivity that is also very important. And many a times we don't get any dimensions, and we get a lot of freedom in terms of defining something. So literature, particularly the poems actually it's not very easy to understand because it is a very concentrated emotions expressed in words. So unless if you have training in reading poems like of philosophy, suddenly you cannot understand. You have to get attuned with that particular thought, then uh, you can understand it. Same thing like of the spirituality, you have to get a little bit of training of it, then you can understand, and the objective and the things are told in the spirituality. So same way in the literature, particularly in poems, you need a lot of training. It's not very easy to appreciate it or get the inner meaning which are written in few words, but it is really too much expressive if you have understood it in a very, very concentrated way. We are very happy to have you here, and really, Professor Meena told something in Hindi, and you also told something. It took us in a different world. But in the context of today's day, 9th August, that to protecting the rights of the indigenous people, so we know that once we had started our civilization, then we do not know when we had started it. In India, we usually say 8,000 years ago. Someone says that it is 5,000 years ago. But in general, we didn't have much difficulties to adjust with the nature. If we go towards to civilization, then we will be finding that that each and every human beings were giving respect to all the biotics and abiotics element within the nature. It was mainly the preachings of the Veda Upanishad. If you go into it, then it talks about a total harmony with all the elements which are existing within the nature. I am telling about the biotic and abiotic elements. There is no conflict in it. How both the elements can coexist, exist with perfect relationship. That's there, and particularly this very good harmonic relationship, symbiotic relationship. We know that that got disturbed with the passages of the industrial revolution which had happened towards the 18th century, and there was a kind of process we tried to make everything in a seamless uniformity, and when it had happened like this, then a lot of problems came up, and we know that the civilization in the name of aggression towards the remotest part and disturbing the people living therein had been revolted, and we know Birsa Munda, that the first actually movement it had started towards the 1880s, 1890s. We cannot think of actually just after Sipai mutiny, and our revolutions against British had not been formulated in that way. At that time, when people didn't know even the name of Gandhiji, so Birsa Munda had took a huge resistance towards the British and defied the rule of the British, that queen that wanted to come out just to protect the rights of the indigenous people of the forest they are living therein. We know, if I can recall a little bit, I may be incorrect, madam is there. I think he passed out in 1896, most probably. So 1896, if you think of who were the prominent leaders in India who were fighting against the British, prominent leader against British, you will not be finding anything. And that time, Birsa Munda took almost 2 decades of resistance and he died towards the end of 18th century. And his particular fight was to protect the rights of the indigenous people, those who are living therein. Particularly, I can say that Srimati Nirmala Putul have come from that land. I am very happy that those who had started from that, today it is Jharkhand, and he had been belonging that, and that new government has actually usually celebrated it, that one of the important revolutionary for the people. So after that, we know that when it had industrial revolution had come, so that time every development used to be defined the way in terms of economy. So if you are very rich, then you are developed. So what happened towards the 20th century, that continued. So everybody want to be very rich, but whether we are lucky enough or not, we do not know. But the interpretation of development kept on changing towards the second half of the 20th century. So it was 40s, 50s, 60s. It dominated that you have to be rich to be defined as developed. Later on, that we got the human development. So a little bit of human element came, not only the economy. Then later on, we got the social development. Along with that when we talked about the social development, so many dimensions of the human life. So their cultural practices, their norms, their habits, their relationship with the nature, then literature, apart from many things. But in the new millennium, we know that the problem of environment, that has also given a new dimensions, because Dr. Saket, he started with the climate change. So this climate change, when we talk about that, in the first decade of new millennium, 21st, we know that United Nations had given the Millennium Development Goal. We usually say MGD. But after 15 years, so 2015, we say that Sustainable Development Goal, SDG. When we talk about the SDG, then it takes comprehensively, it tries to take, I should not tell that it tries to take comprehensively the different element of the development, which you can say that it is sustainable. If you say that it is sustainable, then he was talking about the consumptions also. So the way in 19th century or 20th century we tried to celebrate the more consumptions, more development, nowadays we say that you have to rationalize your consumptions. Means that if you consume this, then you are trying to give the waste generation as minimum as possible. Every time, if you just think, I am not going to burden you with the examples, but if you try to rationalize and minimize our demand for the purpose of consumptions, you are contributing a lot towards the development, generating as minimum as possible waste and pollutions. So if we think in that line, then you have to go back to those indigenous people, those who are maintaining life with a very, very simple minimum requirement, what usually the modern developed people cannot think of. So our targets are there. Many a times we say they go back and try to have the lessons how they are living, how symbiotic relationships they are making with the nature and with their everyday life. So in terms of medicines, in terms of economy, in terms of their health, in terms of their culture, everywhere you find a very, very synchronized, systematic, harmonious relationship. And that if you can cherish it, then you will be finding that life is very, very sustainable. What we the modern people are going for, that is not sustainable. Every time that is addressed. But today's, if we try to take huge lessons from the indigenous people, then we can find it the civilization will be very, very sustainable. Here we are trying to say something that we need to protect the rights of the indigenous people, but it is to be actually presented in different way. If we want to have the proper, perfect, sustainable lessons of the life, then you have to go and learn from the indigenous people. It is not that we need to protect their right, but we need to make them master to teach us how to make our life sustainable to exist in the difficult world. By saying so, I thank you everybody that it is not that we are the master and we need to give the protection to them, but we have need to learn a lot of lessons to understand the exact meaning of the life.
Told me and he told me that Sandesha, every year we do something. Generally we do something छोटा सा कर लेते हैं and then चाय वाय होता है, सबकी tight budget चलती है. Then I said, sir, IIT Roorkee was inviting for a 3-day event out there. So I also want to do it in JNU. So वो छोटा हमने सोच के बगल में कमिटी हॉल सोचा था छोटा सा बुक करेंगे, पर वो छोटा के बजाय ये बड़ा हो गया. And I want to thank each and every one of you. ये तो thank करेंगे from the bottom of my heart, the performers, all of you, our respected speakers, our chair. Thank you so much for being here.
थैंक यू मैम. हम करीब 11 वर्षों से जेएनयू में 9 अगस्त को सेलिब्रेट करते आए हैं. बीच में कुछ बाधित भी हुआ, अब हमने फिर से शुरू किया है और आगे इसको जारी रखेंगे. मैं हमेशा सोचता था कि देश भर में आयोजन हो रहे हैं, हम क्यों ना आयोजन करें. तो खुद हमने ही शुरू किया, 2012 में संभवतः शुरू किया, हर साल मनाया, अच्छे से मनाया और ये बहुत सुखद रहा कि हमें हमेशा प्रशासन का भी सहयोग मिला. तो सबसे पहले मैं वर्तमान प्रशासन और रेक्टर सर प्रोफेसर दीपेंद्र नाथ दास जी का धन्यवाद करता हूं कि उन्होंने उनको हम बहुत देर से इनवाइट कर पाए, इसके बाद भी उन्होंने समय निकाला हमारे लिए, अपनी कक्षा को भी बीच में छोड़ करके आए और बहुत महत्वपूर्ण बातें कही. खासतौर पर आदिवासियों को जिस तरह से उपेक्षित किया जाता है, तो राष्ट्रीय स्वाधीनता आंदोलन की शुरुआत में उनके योगदान को, बिरसा मुंडा के उल्गुलान को उन्होंने याद किया और साथ में उन्होंने बहुत ही दिलचस्प बात कही कि अगर हम इस दुनिया को बचाना चाहते हैं, सस्टेनेबल बनाना चाहते हैं, तो हम आदिवासियों से बहुत कुछ सीख सकते हैं. इतनी महत्वपूर्ण बात कहने के लिए और इस आयोजन का हिस्सा बनने के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर प्रोफेसर दीपेंद्र नाथ दास. मैं हमारे दोनों विशिष्ट वक्ताओं का विशेष धन्यवाद करना चाहता हूं। डॉक्टर साकेत बडोला जी, जिन्होंने आदिवासियों के बारे में ये बात कही जो अक्सर हम जिसका जिक्र करते हैं, बहुत सारे शोध पत्रों में भी ये बात आ रही है लगातार कि हमारी जैव विविधता किस तरह से खतरे में है, बहुत सारी प्रजातियां खतरे में हैं। और अगर हम तमाम प्रजातियों को बचाना चाहते हैं, जैव विविधता को बचाना चाहते हैं, तो आदिवासियों के रास्ते ही बचा सकते हैं, क्योंकि उन्होंने अब तक इसको बचाया है। जिस तरह से मुनाफे की भूख ने धरती माँ को कूड़ेदान में तब्दील कर दिया है या हम उस तरफ बढ़ रहे हैं, उससे भी अगर हमको बचाना है, धरती को बचाना है, जो हम लगातार तमाम गोष्ठियों में ये बात दोहराते हैं कि अगर इस धरती को बचाना है, धरती को सुंदर बनाना है, तो आदिवासियों के जीवन दर्शन को हम अपना सकते हैं कि कैसे वो हजारों वर्षों से इस धरती को बचाते और खूबसूरत बनाते आए हैं। इतनी महत्वपूर्ण बातें कहने के लिए और हमारे इस आयोजन का हिस्सा बनने के लिए आपका बहुत धन्यवाद डॉक्टर साकेत बडोला जी। निर्मला पुतुल जी, उन्होंने थोड़ा कम बोला, लेकिन अभी और बोलेंगी, उनकी और कविताएं आप सुनेंगे। और उन्होंने बहुत महत्वपूर्ण सवाल उठाया जो इस बार यूनाइटेड नेशंस की थीम है कि आदिवासियों का स्वैच्छिक अलगाव, उसमें उनके अधिकारों की रक्षा कैसे कर सकते हैं। तो उन्होंने सवाल उठाया कि आदिवासी स्वैच्छिक अलगाव क्यों चाहते हैं। निश्चित तौर पर क्योंकि उनको बाहरी दुनिया से हमेशा धोखा मिला है, इसलिए वो स्वैच्छिक अलगाव चाहते हैं। और इस प्रश्न पर चाय के बाद वाले सत्र में और विस्तार से बात होने वाली है। हमारे पास में कई विशिष्ट वक्ता हैं, उनके साथ हम बात करेंगे। लेकिन इतनी दूर से, झारखंड से चलकर हमारे इस आयोजन का हिस्सा बनने के लिए आप यहाँ आए, आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। हमारे इस सभागार में कई महत्वपूर्ण व्यक्ति बैठे हुए हैं, उन सबका भी विशिष्ट धन्यवाद। खासतौर पे हमारे साथ प्रोफेसर सोना झरिया मिंज हैं, जो जब से हमने आदिवासी दिवस मनाना शुरू किया उससे पहले से भी हमारा मार्गदर्शन करती रही हैं, अभी लेकिन बहुत सबसे पीछे बैठी हुई हैं। उनसे हम बहुत सीखते आए हैं और आगे भी सीखते रहेंगे। और आने वाले सत्र में, चाय के बाद वाले सत्र में हम उनको सुनेंगे आदिवासियों के अधिकारों पर, आदिवासियों के प्रश्नों पर। प्रोफेसर सोना झरिया मिंज, आपका बहुत धन्यवाद। साथ में प्रोफेसर रामचंद्र जी आए हुए हैं। प्रोफेसर रामचंद्र जी का बहुत धन्यवाद। वे हमेशा इस तरह के आयोजनों में हमारा साथ देते रहे हैं, हमें प्रोत्साहित करते रहे हैं, और आज भी हम उनको चाय के बाद वाले सत्र में सुनेंगे। आपका बहुत धन्यवाद। आप देख रहे होंगे कि कार्यक्रम शुरू होने से पहले से प्रोफेसर देवशंकर नवीन, मैंने उनको कल रात में कहा, जब हम डिपार्टमेंट में कुछ काम कर रहे थे, तब मैंने कहा कि कल हमारे प्रोग्राम में आइए, और वो सबसे पहले आकर के बैठ गए। आपका बहुत धन्यवाद सर, आपने हमारे इसमें शामिल होने के लिए समय निकाला। हमारे साथ प्रोफेसर नरेंद्र जी हैं,